the key scientific guy. So he's a super scientist and managed all the crash retrieval analysis and reverse engineering in that effort. And so maybe it was back in the 40s that they started looking at it. Maybe in the 40s the little alien was dug up. But the headstone was left where the parts were retrieved. Actually, now that I hear myself talk about it, I think that's what happened. Because any responsible intelligence agency or counterintelligence people would have said, "Oh, we got to get that. We can't let that hang around." So
they let it hang out there for a long time.
Yeah, well, if they got it in the 40s, they let it hang out for 50 years, So
yeah,
right. So let's get that. And I'm sure that there's been many other. There's other crashes that happened in Cape Girardeau in 41.
What happened there?
Well, Cape Girardeau is also mentioned in the Majestic documents. So
you know what? Can I cut you off for 1 second, just for people to have context out there?
Sure.
Then we'll come right to Cape Girardeau. Can you just take us through Majestic 12 and what that is and the history of it being uncovered? Because there's questions. There's people that try to say it was debunked. There's people that try to say it was real. But I just want to make sure the listeners have context. They know what we're talking about.
No, that's perfect. So the broad brush is that there's been a series of leaked documents starting in 1984. And the last one is like 1999 or 2000 from 7 different sources spanning some 3,500 pages of leaked documents.
That's a few.
That's a few. Some of it classified top secret magic. Like
that, right?
Yeah,
there.
like
on the top.
Well, like this one. Yeah, this is the first one that is the Eisenhower briefing document.
I'll hold that up to my
this
camera
is a
real quick.
First generation negative from the Eisenhower briefing document, which came in 1984.
What does that mean, first generation negative?
Well, so you have an undeveloped Tri-X film that came in the mail to Jamie Chandray in L.A. I was an L.A. producer. So you go to the darkroom, you develop it, and then you print it. And so this is a first generation print.
Very cool.
From that. And it says top secret magic on the top of it. And MAJIC. Yeah, and that stands for Military Assessment of the Joint Intelligence Committee. MAJIC.
They got these big terms back there.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a document called that. And then it has a whole list of people down at the front.
The alleged 12.
The alleged original MJ12. And this is the one that, somebody sent to the FBI, and the FBI ran around all the 3-letter agencies and said, well, did you lose this? And none of them said, we lost it.
Oh, yeah, because they were going to tell the truth.
Right, exactly. And
you didn't lose anything? Case closed.
Right, so they stamp it bogus, and the FBI says it's bogus, and they have it on the web, they have it in the National Archives as quote, bogus, because nobody admitted that they lost it.
Can I read this for
Sure,
people right
yeah.
here? This is pretty cool. So it says, as you pointed out, Ryan, it says top secret magic eyes only on the top, like it's stamped on. And then down here it says Operation Majestic 12 is a top secret research and development intelligence operation responsible directly and only to the President of the United States. Allegedly was set up by Truman. Operations of the project are carried out under control of the Majestic 12, Magic 12, group, which was established by special classified executive order of President Truman on 24 September 1947, about a couple years after the nukes here, upon recommendation by Dr. Vannevar Bush and Secretary James Forrestal, who I know James Fox has brought up a bunch. The members of Majestic 12 Group were designated as follows. Admiral Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter.
First director of the CIA.
Okay. Dr. Vannevar Bush, Secretary James Forrestal, General Nathan Twining, General Hoyt Vandenberg, Dr. Detlev Bronk, Dr. Jerome Hunsaker, Mr. Sidney Sowers, Mr. Gordon Gray, Dr. Donald Menzel, General Robert Montague, and Dr. Lloyd Berkner.
Yeah. So some of those people are very interesting in that.
Yeah, can we get context?
Yeah, no, I'll give you a few that I have, a good memory for. Well, Hillenkoetter is very interesting. He was the first director of the CIA, and he's got a lot to do with pushing this along, as well as Vannevar Bush, who was head of OSRD, Office of Scientific Research and Development. He was the key scientific guy. So he's a super scientist and managed all the crash retrieval analysis and reverse engineering in that effort.
Okay.
And then you go to James Forrestal. Forrestal's interesting for. I have Forrestal's FBI file, and I have a bunch of FBI files, but
It's a nice little flex.
So he had sort of a drinking problem, a little bit of psychological stress, but he also was sort of thrown out the window on Bethesda Naval Hospital, defenestrated, so to speak.
He couldn't fly.
You couldn't fly. And now the question is why, and was he going to tell the truth? He was a loose cannon. Was he mentally unstable at the time? But, he was Secretary of the Navy. General Nathan Twining was the key guy in the Roswell investigation, and then and was very much the good soldier and worked hard at the whole Roswell reverse engineering. Hoyt Vandenberg was his boss. Dietlif Bronk was a scientist, and I have Bronk's FBI file too. And it's plugged into UFODEX as well.
Nice.
So Bronk was a surgeon, a scientist, somebody capable of doing an autopsy of an alien in one of the Majestic documents.
Capable of doing an autopsy of
He
an
actually
alien.
did an autopsy of an alien. That was in one of the Majestic documents. He worked or was good friends with Leslie Groves, the head of the Manhattan Project.
Matt Damon in the movie.
Yeah, Matt Damon in the movie, right. And then Don Menzel was a famous Harvard astronomer and sort of a debunker of ufology. So he's a disinformation agent in the front-facing world of ufology in that era. And Lloyd Berkner was another one working with Bush and plugged into the White House. I actually got, I think in Berkner's FBI file, I have a document that says he was assigned to the White House for Special Studies Project, quote, M, for Majestic in theory. It doesn't say Majestic, but there was another person that has the same M classification. So these were the original people that were at the highest level. In the Majestic documents, I have this list on majesticdocuments.com of MJ-12 personnel, which is like 100 names of people and their affiliation, their social security numbers, their military ID numbers, their date of birth, date of death, and that's all findable on majesticdocuments.com.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you. Yeah, let's pull up the Wikipedia, because this is going to be biased against Majestic 12.
Oh, yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
They
I'm
debunk
sure it
like
is.
everything on there.
Yeah.
I just want to see
Yeah.
what that says for
Yeah.
people. So again,
Sure.
like they're going to debunk
yeah.
everything on there. So
Yeah.
take this with a grain of salt. But go down, Alessi. Well, the top I pretty much already read off what that is. Go down to analysis. All right, so class's investigation of the MJ-12 documents found that Robert Cutler was actually out of the country on the date he supposedly wrote the Cutler-Twining memo, and that the Truman signature... Hold on, we lost the screen.
Yeah, Truman signature.
The Truman signature was a pasted-on photocopy of a genuine signature, including accidental scratch marks from a memo that Truman wrote to Vannevar Bush on October 1st, 1947. Can you scroll down, Leslie? Class dismissed theories that the documents were part of a disinformation campaign as ridiculous. saying they contain numerous flaws that could never fool Soviet or Chinese intelligence. Other discrepancies noted by Class included the use of a distinctive date format that matched one used in Moore's personal letters and a conversation reported by Brad Sparks in which Moore confided that he was contemplating creating and releasing some hoax top-secret documents in hopes that such bogus documents would encourage former military and intelligence officials who knew about the government's alleged UFO cover-up to break their oaths of secrecy.
Yeah, no, those are the classic objections. So I'll make a few comments. One is that Truman had an auto pen, which is a pen where you move your hand once and 5 other pens do the same thing at the same time.
What?
Yeah, it's called an auto pen. I have a picture of Truman using it.
Can we get? Is that on the internet?
It's on. I think it's on majesticdocuments.com in photos.
So are they are the pens
Yeah, they're
attached to each other?
mechanically attached.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. I thought you were talking about like magic anti-gravity pens or some shit.
No. They're mechanically attached, and it's something called an auto pen. So they used it for signing invitations and signing documents, and the whole date format thing that Class mentions was widely debunked by Stan Friedman and written up in his book. He actually won a bet against Class for $100 a signature, $100 per date format, and
how many date formats were there?
Well, Class refused to pay past 10, so he paid $1,000 to Stan Friedman. But Friedman found like 20, 25.
Wow.
Yeah, these were all at the Library of Congress Manuscript Division. So that whole message is, and then Class himself is part of the disinformation campaign in ufology. I distinctly remember him coming to a variety of conferences and sitting in the front row and basically throwing barbs and refusing to accept any evidence. He clearly had connections to government agencies, and his focus was on debunking the same way Richard Doty is in his history. And there's several others that are also, Bill Moore is mentioned there in that Wikipedia mention. And Bill Moore in 1989 was in the Las Vegas MUFON conference, and he ran out the back of the stage when the CIA was brought up, and he was questioned about that. And my father knew him. I had met Bill Moore before. So this needs to be done. I mean, to do a good job of writing a book about the cases and aspects of disinformation in ufology. There's many other cases. Richard Doty tried to manipulate Linda Moulton Howe on several classified documents, and then there's
so? What do you mean manipulate?
He showed her a bunch of documents, and then was going to give them to her, and then took them away. The thing to do would be to interview Linda, and ask her what's going on. I've heard her talk about it before. I remember the Paul Benowitz story, where Richard Doty was also involved, where they basically tried to, and Bill Moore as well, psychologically destroy and manipulate a man to suicide.
I believe Darcy Weir talked about that one, right, Alessi?
Yeah,
that was the same one, because he was talking about Richard Doty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there are cases like that. I'm not an expert in that. I just hear that through osmosis of being around the field for a long time. Right. So going back to the Majestic documents, there's this Jamie Chandray event. And then the next major event happened in 1994, when a undeveloped film canister of Tri-X film again was mailed to Don Berliner in Washington, D.C., who was an Aviation Week and space reporter. And when developed, it turned into the Special Operations Manual, Extraterrestrial Entities, Technology, Recovery, and Disposal. So this particular manual is the most powerful, the most authentic, the highest confidence of all the Majestic documents. I've done the most analysis along with my father about its authenticity.
And how do you authenticate something like this?
Well, we'll take the first page just for an example. So you see at the bottom, there's the war seal.
Yes.
You see, so first of all, you find another manual that's in 1954 that has the war seal. And so you can go to the government documents library at Stanford or CU Boulder or Library of Congress, et cetera, and pull up other manuals that use the war seal. Some of the critics have said, well, this is fake because the government issued an order that in 1952, you're not supposed to use the war seal on any documents anymore. You're supposed to use the federal seal or something. And so it's fake because of that. But no, you could find other examples of where they used it. And so that is a hallmark of authenticity, for example. Or the style of the Psalm 101 at the very top, in that style is correct.
Is that copyable, though, 40 years later?
Well, this is leaked in 1994.
Right, and this was April 1954, allegedly.
Right. Well, the latest edition of that was 57. But when you say copyable, could you fake it? Yes, the CIA could fake it. The question is why, or the KGB could have faked it, but the question is why? Why leak it? Why?
Yeah,
it's a disinformation thing. So I think it's not so much a clandestine leak to try to do something to scare the living daylights out of the Chinese or the Russians or the Israelis or whoever about it. It's more that it's authentic. And there's a couple of other points of authenticity before I just moan on, really. The biggest thing is on the inside page, there's what's called a change control page where it's stamped Kirkland Air Force Base, N.MEX, Unit KB88, Building 21, and there's initials EWL and JRT that for the changing out certain pages in the manual. And so I said, who are these guys, EWL and JRT? And I went to the Albuquerque phone book for 1954 and found the two officers, their names in the phone book, and they both were on Perimeter Road, like 4 houses from each other. One was a lieutenant colonel and one was a captain, I think. And so I literally found the guys that were responsible for marking that. The also thing that we did is we took this manual to...
well, they were purported to, right? So, and what did they say? Did you talk to them?
I hired a private investigator to go find them and try to talk to them. One was dead and the other wouldn't talk. But the point is that this came out in 94. This is before computers. The next thing we did was we took it to Robert McCarter, who is a retired government printing office employee, basically wrote the government printing style manual for several years, which is a big, thick book all about the nature of how you write government documents. And my father and I went to his house in Virginia. We had this green card table, and we slid this document across to him and said, well, what do you think of this? And his response was, well, by the title, I would think it's fake. But then he started flipping through all the pages and said, oh, the Z in synchronizer was raised off the line, which is an artifact of a hot lead printing press. So, and he said, Federal was capitalized correctly, and that screwdriver.
Why did you think the first page was fake?
I don't know. I just from the title, it was so weird. He'd never seen extraterrestrial entities technology, right. So that was sort of his as a Joe Blow citizen in the mid '90s, saying,
right.
So, and. He went through and concluded that this follows all the various style details associated with hot lead printing presses and classified documents, and some of the what they call entomology, which is the word usage.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's critical.
It's critical. So, for example, screwdriver is 2 words or 1 word today, and in the document it's 2 words. which is a hallmark of, or first aid was capitalized instead of a single word today. And there's other little subtleties in the language use, as well as all the references in the back were correct. But these are sort of hallmarks of the authenticity. What was so stunning is the content. If you just go to the page that says what to do with the bodies and the parts and where to send it and ship it, that's the, from Wright-Patterson Blue Lab to Area 51 S4. So that's the part that's very interesting.
Whoa. Okay. I see that right here. It says like living entity, living non-human organisms in apparent good or reasonable health. Code EBE010, receiving facility, OPNAC BBS-01.
Yeah.
Now, are we able to have, well, some of these say Area 51 S4, which a lot of people have heard of.
Yeah.
But are we able to know if all these are government or actually run by a contractor?
Well, I think they're all government.
Okay.
I think at this time. I mean, Area 51 S4 is
Right,
great.
that one is.
And the Blue Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
WP.
Yeah, WP. But OPNAC BBS-01 is still somewhat of a mystery. I think BBS-01 stands for Bronx, Detlef Bronx Biological Section.
What makes you say that?
Well, because Bronk was the guy who did the autopsy of the alien, along with Charles Ethan Ray in the Majestic documents.
Oh.
So those are the two guys that did. And then, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but in one of the Majestic documents, the Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit document, it says Detlef Bronk and Charles Ray did the autopsy of an alien. And I said, well, who's this guy, Charles Ethan Ray? And so I hunted around, and he was a surgeon. He also was at the Mayo Clinic and worked with Leslie Groves, and he had the credentials to do an autopsy of an alien. And then I called up his daughter in Seattle and talked to her on the phone. And
What'd she say?
I said, well, do you think your father autopsied an alien? And she said, yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah.
Did she elaborate beyond that?
No, she didn't elaborate. She didn't say that he ever told her that she did it. He did it. But no hesitation in her voice. We talked a little bit about her father, and she sent me some documents and pictures and so forth. But you can get his military personnel file, and he was part of the medical corps, and a very relatively famous. I think there's a huge plaque about him in Minnesota. So he's a real stalwart, along with Detlef Bronk. I mean, these are, if in 1947 you wanted to do an autopsy of an alien, these are two people you'd tap, particularly because Leslie Groves, the head of the Manhattan Project, would have chosen these people in a super classified way to do that.
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here